Hello and welcome to another episode of Nerdosphere Reviews, the Enter the Nerdosphere podcast where we review a topic, film, show, video game, or anything we like.
Yeah.
Our slogan says silver screen to the small screen and anything and everything in between. So, we mean
Anything and everything.
So
Sometimes the in-between is dinner along the way from the small screen to the silver screen.
True.
You never know. You don't know.
It's a surprise every week. Except when there's a big movie release, like what we're talking about tonight.
Suicide Squad.
That's right. Tonight's episode is about Suicide Squad. Be warned at this point, it will be spoiler full, as usual.
As usual.
Here at the Enter the Nerdosphere. We talk pretty extensively about things, and we feel like we can't review them properly. At least me and you can't review them properly without spoilers. So,
yeah.
But we will warn you, there will be spoilers. But before we get into all that, let's do our usual numbers roundup. So, it's been out for 2 weekends now.
Yes.
The total gross as of today, August 15th. Domestic, $227 million. Foreign, $243 million. So together, worldwide, $471 million to date. So, and it still is not open in China, right?
Right.
So,
it probably won't be.
Let's do weekend to weekend. Opening weekend, it did $133 million.
But had a 40% drop from Friday to Saturday.
According to this, it's a 67% drop.
Da-da-dang is the phrase I'm searching for.
So opening weekend, it did really well. It actually beat Guardians of the Galaxy's record for an August release. Is that correct?
Yeah.
A really big weekend to weekend drop. So the next weekend, August 12th through 14th, only made $43 million. It's a drop of 67%. And that usually happens when
everyone who was excited for it went to go see it, and then they told everyone they know, don't see it.
Yes. Exactly. Everyone who wanted to see it went to go see it opening weekend. Its longevity is nil. Okay. Rotten Tomato. The tomato meter has critics at 27%. Has an average rating of 4.7 out of 10. Audience score is still holding at 69% though. Which is
funny, the
strange considering the weekend to weekend drop. Although BVS was the same way.
What's funny to me is during the opening weekend, the stark difference between user score and critic score had people clamoring for Rotten Tomatoes to be shut down because they were so offended by it. But I wanted, there's a petition, like a change.org, sort of petition to, and it garnered a lot of signatures. But what I don't think people understand is Rotten Tomatoes is not a self-reviewing site. It's literally a culmination of critics and audience.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Rotten Tomatoes' opinion of the movie. This is the average critic and the average user. Yeah. So to say that the stark difference should mean that Rotten Tomatoes be taken down, well, you're kind of an idiot because you don't understand how the site works.
Exactly. Yeah, this one, just to give our listeners an idea, for Suicide Squad, they counted 283 reviews to get their average score of 27% approval. They break that down into what they call fresh and rotten reviews. So fresh being a positive review, rotten being a negative review. 75, and that's where they get the 27%.
Right.
75 reviews were fresh. 208 reviews were rotten. So I mean, they're right, as you'll soon find out.
Well, will they?
So, let's get down into it. Why don't you talk about the soundtrack? Because it seems like we usually start with music,
Sure.
with movie reviews.
So the soundtrack, as we kind of talked about in this week's Enter the Nerdosphere episode, it topped the Billboard's Top 200. It was number 1 on the charts. It is the highest streamed soundtrack album ever to have come out in its first week. Even sold over 120,000 hard CDs, which is an interesting thing that I guess people still do. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny to me.
I was surprised to hear that.
The way it calculates from the downloads, over 32 million digital albums were downloaded and streamed in the first weekend alone. The soundtrack is dynamite. There's a lot of original songs lyrically that were written for the movie. You have 21 Pilots' new song "Heathens" that's on there.
It's a really good song.
So good. You have Panic at the Disco covering Bohemian Rhapsody, which actually
It's really good.
Pretty rocking. I couldn't believe it was Panic at the Disco because I don't like Panic at the Disco. But yeah, so all in all, the music in of itself is a great thing. Where the music falls short is feeling like it's an organic piece of the film.
Mm-hmm.
So we already know that part of the drama was David Ayer had his own cut of the movie, and then WB has their own cut of the movie. And what they did was they hired the studio company that put together the initial Suicide Squad trailer in attempts to try to make it a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more fun. They wanted them, with that style, to edit this movie. So what you get is you have a lot of these scenes being put together, these songs, where the songs are being put in to force upon you a tonal sense,
Which isn't necessarily reflected on
what is happening.
Exactly.
And it's not organic. It feels out of place. What's happening is you have a really cool song playing, and you're like, oh, this is a cool song. But since it's so disingenuous and so unorganic, you see that you're trying to be played. Like, you go, I understand that you're trying to make my adrenaline rush or, like, think this is a badass moment, but what's happening is I see through your lies. Like, this is not that
Yeah.
moment.
You know what it reminded me of was if you ever watch any dramas on MTV, which MTV is trying. They're trying.
Right.
And they're getting close. Scream is actually pretty decent. I've
Is
been
it?
watching that, yeah. But what they still do, and I can only imagine it's because they're MTV, they take like hits and put them into the show.
Right.
And it's like, it's so obvious that you're just putting that in there to give like that track play. You know what I mean? Like it's forced just so it's listened. They put up like the title of the song below. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, so I mean, like sometimes it fit and sometimes it didn't. It's like when like Amanda Waller is going through the rap sheet and you have like the really overdone like animation of like the rap sheet. Like that part's cool, and that is kind of it aligns with the style of what the trailer was. But then when you have like all of them arriving at the military base and they have like Seven Nations Army playing by the White Stripes, that was one of the moments where it was like, oh, this is a cool song, but it doesn't fit in this moment. Like you're trying to make this moment like kind of cool and like bum 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 bum, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So the soundtrack in of itself is an awesome thing to listen to. I've been listening to it on Spotify whenever I drive down here, but it doesn't work with the movie. And this again is.
It's a stark difference from like the awesome mix from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Where like that mix was perfectly integrated with the story and was used as basically the inspiration.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that they took the highest opening weekend away from Guardians of the Galaxy because it kind of seems like a bad knockoff of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
In truth.
Yeah.
So that's the music.
Didn't
Great,
really
not in the
notice
movie.
much of a score to be had.
No,
Was
it's
there?
kind of like the animated Transformer movie where all the music literally is just songs.
Right.
You
So-
got the touch. Ba, ba, ba. You got power.
Over and over and over again. Okay.
You who are made of sterner stuff, now plead for it.
Do we want to jump right into the Joker, or do we want to talk a little bit more about the movie?
Let's talk about the movie first,
Okay.
all right? Because you and I don't quite fully agree on what's going on with the Joker. And
We do not.
there's a lot to say about the Joker, but let's at the end of the day, this is a Suicide Squad movie. Let's just talk about how Suicide Squad is just a jumbled, incoherent editing room disaster, and is a prime example of how one studios get too involved in the movies, and also it really doesn't matter what a director's vision is and what they shoot as far as scenes are concerned. It's whoever walks in that editing room that makes the movie.
Especially if the director is not handily involved with the editing process.
Right.
Which that was the case here.
Most definitely.
But
And I would pay good money to see David Ayer's cut, because I think that there is a decent to good movie in there somewhere, because there were a lot of good moments.
Yeah.
It was a terribly executed film.
Yeah, first thing I said to you when I said I saw it was just a jumbled mess. Like I couldn't really follow it, and it would cut so quick, go here, go there. It felt like there were pieces missing, like giant pieces missing. And I didn't care enough, and it wasn't edited well enough for me to fully understand what in the world they were doing.
When I walked out, Nick brought a good point. He was like, that the runtime is like just at 2 hours, maybe just under 2 hours. And he was
really
like,
long.
they had plenty of room to leave in 30 minutes worth of content. Like,
Yeah.
movies nowadays run about 2.5 hours. If your movie is running barely at 2 hours and it's noticeable that chunks are missing, you can put 10 more minutes of footage in. Like, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of the norm nowadays.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Unless you're BVS and you filmed a flipping 4-hour movie, which is just stupid from the get-go, but that's neither here nor there. Well, it is kind of here because it's DC.
Yeah. Man, it was just, I'm sitting here and I just can't. It was so jumbled.
For me, the movie started off strong. Having Amanda Waller go through that rap sheet and having this really
The rap
cool
sheet intro was really cool.
having like the animated bit, kind of like really gave it this really unique tone that I'm not almost used to seeing in a movie. Almost reminded me of Scott Pilgrim, where it was like not necessarily meta, but it was just it wasn't
reminded
quite.
me a little bit of what Guy Ritchie does sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And seeing like how all the villains got to Bel Rev was pretty cool. Like, I liked seeing kind of Deadshot's backstory. I liked seeing Captain Boomerang's backstory. I liked seeing Harley Quinn's backstory, because we got to see a little bit of the Joker, and we get a little bit more of that throughout the movie. But that for me probably was one of the better moments of the movie. I thought they utilized Batman in a unique way. I thought that was a cool aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
It was a different way to approach the shared universe, where like trying to like, if I'm comparing it to Marvel, it is like Marvel hasn't really done that. It's like there's certain like story elements and stuff that are overarching, and that's what's kind of pulling it all together. But it was cool to have a movie about villains, and like half the villains were like taken in by Batman.
Yeah,
it was just neat.
Yeah, it was cool. Silence. Is that the only positive thing we had to say about it?
No, okay, so there were a couple good moments that gave me chills. So the scene where they're in this is like jumping into like 2/3 in the movie. So you have a good beginning. Oh, hey, there's action.
Actually, assembling the team was really clunky.
It was clunky.
It was so clunky. Because, like, you get introduced to all these characters, and then, like, Flag goes and, like, visits them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know, even that was just boring. I don't know. It was just terrible.
The scene in the streets where they're attacking Enchantress's minions, I thought, was entertaining. But then Deadshot goes ham on a bunch of guys, and when it was over, Nick and I just looked at each other and were like, "Holy crap, that was awesome."
Really cool. What wasn't cool is right after he did that awesome thing, he turns around and says to Flag, "That's how I cut and run."
Ooh, dang.
Because Flag had awkwardly accused Deadshot of being the type that would cut and run in a real fight, which is something that you do between like developing soldier peers, something like that.
Yeah.
This is definitely not that relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you already kind of off-cast had commented about their relationship and how it doesn't quite make sense.
Mm-hmm. He is their jailer. He literally holds their lives in their hands, and he makes it clear by killing one of them that he doesn't care about them. They are there.
If you do not listen.
Yeah. But then they continue to build this weird buddy, like soldier type relationship between Flag and Deadshot, and it feels forced. All of Will Smith's like quirky little comebacks and stuff, like it feels forced. If you're in that situation in real life, that's not how that would be. And it was very apparent that those things were forced to try to lighten the mood.
And while we're talking about the clunky assembling of the team, first I want to point out Slipknot is a character who is in the lineup, but was not given a rap sheet background at the beginning of the movie. So when he did come on screen, I said out loud, he's going to die in like the next 5 minutes. And he did. He had like maybe 1 or 2 lines. It was shared by Captain Boomerang when they arrived at the city. And Captain Boomerang, trying to see if maybe this like implant was a ruse or not, convinced Slipknot that it was. And he's like, on the count of 3, let's go. And then like let him go while he stood back. And sure enough, they were legitimate. And Captain Boomerang was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't run. The next clunky intro is a character that up until this point, halfway through the movie, I forgot was in it. And that's Katana.
Mm-hmm.
Out of nowhere, Katana joins the fold as one of Rick Flag's friends.
Yeah.
And then she makes a snide comment about, should I kill them because they're villains? To the Suicide Squad, and Flag says, no, we need them for this mission. Which brings me to another puzzling point later, just for character inconsistency, when Deadshot finds the binder that reveals that Enchantress and he are sleeping together. She walks off to the bar with the villains.
Yeah, like she has no connection to them at all. Had just before that offered to just kill them all.
Right.
Since they were villains. And now she's going to go share a beer with them because Flag's sleeping with the human alter ego of the bad guy.
Right.
So ridiculous.
Which
that plot point in itself is just ridiculous. Especially because not only did a Suicide Squad like kind of lose confidence, for lack of a better term, in Flag and like walk away to go drink their sorrows.
Right.
But so do his men, like his actual soldier men.
Who would know?
Yeah, who would have known? And that brings me to another point. Why are the soldiers there? This squad was sent in knowing that they were expendable. It's okay if these people die. But you send in the same amount of soldiers with them?
And only say Rick Flag is the one that can't die, otherwise you die.
Right.
If you're going to send other soldiers in, shouldn't it be no soldier dies or you die?
Exactly.
Because the whole reason you're here is so that if anyone dies, it's you.
Yeah.
And it's Scott Eastwood that sacrifices himself at the end.
Yeah, what a wasted character.
He really was. Everyone was like, we're on to you. He's someone specifically. He's like credited as Lieutenant GQ. He's attractive. Like that's too on the nose. He's someone. Some people were saying maybe he's Dick Grayson, sent in by Batman to see like what's Amanda Waller up to. What is this Task Force X? Mm-hmm. Which actually, despite how you feel on how that casting would have been as far as a subplot going on in the background to create a cohesive movie verse, that would have been cool. Mm-hmm. But instead, he literally is just a soldier who I don't even know if had more than 1 or 2 lines.
Did he have any lines?
He was Lieutenant GQ. He was there to look pretty.
Like when he swam up there and pressed the button and there was still only 1 second on the bomb, I was like, oh.
Is he gonna die?
I guess he's sacrificing himself because I didn't even... That's another thing. Those soldiers went in to find that bomb knowing they were going to die.
Right.
But then they were like opposed to Killer Croc going. Like, no, we got this. And Killer Croc's like, no, this is my territory or something. And like swims in there.
Yeah, you guys live on land. Here, you're my tourists. Something stupid like that.
So it's like, why you send your only soldiers, the actual people who probably should be the ones that you're trying to protect to survive, like we already said, and you send them over Killer Croc, who's the expendable one and can swim and breathe underwater.
Right.
I don't know. There's so many inconsistencies in this movie.
Which also kind of brings us to one of the worst parts of the movie, and that's the villain.
Mm-hmm.
The villain as the Enchantress, who up until this point with the marketing has led us to believe that she's a part of the Suicide Squad, which on one hand you can say that's good on the marketing's part because we didn't see it coming necessarily. But you don't care about her.
Yeah.
She's introduced, and there are some aspects about her that are cool, like when she transforms into the Enchantress. The way that she transforms visually is pretty stunning and is neat to see.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't spend enough time with her character to have any sort of attachment to her. When she becomes the villain, it literally comes out of left field, and there's a pace jump. The movie has this like certain pace, and then once she becomes the villain, it like is like fast forward button, and just like the movie's propelled. But
well, that also happens because there's this huge cut. It's like there's a giant middle part of the movie that's gone.
Right. It was like you had the first act and third act.
Yeah.
There was no like middle.
Because when they're sent in, I was legitimately like, what is going on? Like, there's no...
Although you also watched a version of the movie where you didn't have English subtitles, which is every time the Enchantress talked.
Yeah, but I'm talking about... I'm not even talking about that now, though. I'm talking about they are sent into the city that has been laid waste, and we are shown nothing of that.
That's true.
Like, the second before that, we see her brother. We don't even see her yet. That's revealed later.
Attacking in the subway.
Her brother's attacking the subway. And then the very next thing is them going into the city that's completely overrun. And then there's no explanation. Like, we find out later that Enchantress, like, showed up there for a split second and was like, brother, help me. Let's take over the world. I don't know. It's just, the editing was terrible.
And there's a lot of laugh out loud moments. So when I was in the theater and they were taking on the Enchantress towards the end, when Harley Quinn throws the gun to Deadshot and it goes into slow-mo, I laughed out loud at the theater. I said, this is so silly.
It was so slow also. It was so slow.
Super slow-mo.
Because it doesn't go into slow motion when she tosses it. It goes into slow motion as she's throwing. So we actually see her
winding.
Fast forward about 30 flipping seconds, and then it's finally reached his hand, and it's still in slow motion. Goodness gracious.
And then he has that flash of his daughter. Like, that's not going to stop you from fucking blowing up the dynamite.
First of all, the dude is an assassin. He is a hitman hired to kill people. It's what he does for a living. Why? I mean, I get that Enchantress was, like, messing with his head, but that's not something that... First of all, he's desensitized by far to killing already.
Right.
And second, he's shooting someone who's trying to destroy the world, and he's shooting someone who's just plain evil. His daughter saying don't shoot, I don't think would mess with him that much.
No. Well, it was like you said off cast too. It's funny for everything that Arrow has done wrong. If you're gonna
actually did Deadshot right.
They did Deadshot right, in contrast to Deadshot and Suicide Squad.
And that's just because my point there was they, from the get-go, try to humanize him. This is a very bad man.
Very, very,
very bad man. And they try to humanize him out of the gate, which I get, because
you want to have the main character be relatable.
Right. But you don't do it right out of the gate. You show him being Deadshot, you show maybe a little bit of tension with getting captured in front of the daughter, and then he grows throughout his experience saving the world.
Right.
That's how you humanize him. You don't out of the gate like, he's a good guy, he just kills people.
Because that's not how that works.
Right. It's like, come on. Can we develop a character properly? Because otherwise, I mean, I actually ended up liking Will Smith in that role.
Mm-hmm. More so than I thought. He was actually one of the things I was most bummed about when the casting was announced, because I'm kind of over Will Smith at this point.
Yeah, me too.
And I was like, I know exactly what you're doing. Like I could predict how the character was gonna act and stuff.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it.
His mask was just legit, though, right?
Yeah, when he's holding it, his floppy rubber mask, then when he puts it on, it's like an actual helmet for protection. I'm not sure how that works. I need to get me one of those for Halloween.
The helmet was so pointless. He only wore it like twice in the whole movie.
It was pointless. And then, I mean, almost all the other characters are throwaway characters. Amanda Waller was pretty good. But like you said, how many times can you hold up a phone and say, I hold your life in my hands, do as I say right now to get him under control before she, like, loses her hand.
Yeah.
Like
at one point, she's literally surrounded by all of them, and they're upset because they're rescuing her, which that's another thing.
That came out of nowhere.
That came out of nowhere. We had no idea
that they were going to rescue
their
her.
base of operations was, and maybe that was the intention, but it was so stupid.
Yeah. Because you thought when they were going into the city, their whole purpose from the get-go
was to get Enchantress. Yeah, and it wasn't. It was first to save Amanda Waller,
who murdered her entire team of people, which, I mean, is in line with her character, but again, just like everything happening all at once. It was very strange.
Yeah. But anyways, she's surrounded by these people, and her version of let me intimidate them to get them back on track is to pull out her phone and show,
right,
if I press this button, you die. She's surrounded by 6 or 7 bad guys who in a split second could just kill her, and it would be over. They would be free.
Yep.
Like, that's kind of a dumb way to show superiority.
No, I agree. So going into this movie, one of the most anticipated things was the fact that Jared Leto had been cast as the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Hot off the heels. Not really hot off the heels, but he's the next actor to portray the Clown Prince of Crime after Heath Ledger's very, very iconic portrayal. Before I get into what I think of Jared Leto's Joker, I do want to say that although I love Heath Ledger's Joker, I by no means think that Heath Ledger's Joker is the quintessential Joker. He played an aspect of what that character was, but I would no way say that he is still, like, to a T comic book accurate to how the Joker is. It was just a really good performance. So Jared Leto is taking on this very iconic role, has a lot riding on him. David Ayer already from the get-go is going with a very, very different interpretation of the Joker. As far as looks concerned, he wants him to be more of a drug lord, gangster type character, which there have been aspects of the Joker portrayed like that in the comics. Even Hush Part 2, the Joker that's in that is very much like a gang lord type Joker, and I'm not overly fond of it, but it's there. It's
only one of 3 Jokers, though. There's 3 Jokers.
It's true, there is 3 Jokers. DC Comics. So my struggle with wanting to say what my judgment of Jared Leto's Joker is that I now know the background drama, and I think it's unfair to fully judge his Joker. We now know that almost all of his scenes were cut. There was, from what he talks of, some sort of story arc for the Joker in this movie that we do not get to see. We get the entire origin of Harley Quinn becoming Harley Quinn was in the movie, and that's almost ripped from us. But they did leave the Ace Chemical scene, which I thought was a beautiful scene, where she jumps into the chemical vat, and then he kind of like is like, oh man, this is gonna hurt, but then jumps in, and then they start like making out in the toxic, bed. I was like, this is pretty cool. This is very comic book accurate. But the whole movie just is kind of these short little scenes of Jared Leto trying to talk through this obviously fake prosthetic that's in his mouth, that's his grill, trying to save Harley Quinn, which already in and of itself is un-Joker-like.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have an issue with the way he acted. I had an issue with the fact that I could tell that there was fake teeth in his mouth, so he was having a hard time talking. And I didn't get enough of him. Based on the marketing and based on what I was being told by those who were involved in the film, I was expecting a very substantial amount of Joker. I didn't get that. I was kind of like, he was really kind of pointless in this movie.
He was.
So I don't know.
I didn't like him at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not one bit. Didn't like him. Don't like the way he looks. Don't like the way he talks. Don't like the way they portrayed him. Don't like the way he's written. Don't like any of it. Didn't like any of it. In fact, I hated it. I hated it.
But eyebrows.
Dude, I said this to Corbin offcast. If he had eyebrows, my opinion might be different. I'm gonna be honest.
I don't understand.
He looks so bizarre without eyebrows, and then from there it just falls apart. The eyebrows for me are the foundation. And I would never say this any other way because everyone already has eyebrows. So maybe for me, eyebrows are the foundation of life.
Oh my god.
But seriously, the no eyebrow look bleeds into all the tattoos. I cannot stand the tattoos. I cannot stand them. And then he's wearing all these gold chains. He's wearing button-down shirts, half buttoned the entire movie. Yeah, his smile is tattooed on his hand, and that's like how he smiles. Stop it. The grill is ridiculous. The grill is
not ridiculous if...
No, it's ridiculous.
No, here's my thing with the grill, okay? If it weren't for the fact that there's a huge gaping plot hole in the fact that the grill is there, I don't mind the idea of the grill. So the idea of the grill was, I was reading just a couple days ago, David Ayer said he wanted to clear up that he confirmed the Robin, Batman, Joker fan theory, which was he got his grill from Batman punching him in the mouth. No.
The quote is,
no, I'll
in
pull it
my
up.
mind.
I'll pull it up right now.
In my mind.
I'll pull it up.
He talks about how, in my mind.
No, I'll pull it up. I will pull up.
You better pull it up quick because
I'm pulling it up
this
quick.
is already going longer than we planned.
I'm pulling it up. Chill. Pulling it up. Bum, ba-da-bum, ba-da-ba-da-bum. Ba-da-bum. Ba-da-bum.
We just lost all 20 of our listeners.
Well, we didn't. If they're still here, I mean, if they're made it this far, they're here waiting with great anticipation to see which brother is correct. And I'm telling you, it's going to be me.
We'll just Google it instead of going through the entire comicbook.com backlog. Sheesh Louise.
All right. Perhaps more interestingly, Ayer confirms a popular fan theory about how Jared Leto's Joker became that shiny grill on his, and reveals the divisive damage tattoo that is connected to it. Quoting is saying, "This is sort of my personal thing and maybe less about a larger connection, but Joker killed Robin and Batman basically smashes his teeth out and locks him in Arkham Asylum. It's in the asylum where Joker would have donned the damage tattoo as a message to Batman saying, 'You've damaged me, I was so beautiful before, and now you've destroyed my face.' That's where the grill comes from." He says that's where it comes from. He also says it's my personal thing, but he is the writer.
This is sort of my personal thing. He's the writer for this movie.
He's
not the writer for the DCEU.
He's the writer, director, and the whole look of the Joker was designed by him and only him.
Which is all completely terribly wrong.
So if he put the grill in his mouth because that's what Batman did to him, that's why it's there.
It's his personal view.
It doesn't matter. He made it canon when he wrote it.
He didn't write it. He came out just now to sort of put an explanation to it that doesn't even pan out with his own story.
There is a huge gaping plot hole, but it still is what he says
it's
is
not
fact.
a huge gaping plot hole. It cannot be true. He's saying, in my mind, this is how I envisioned it. But then when I actually wrote the story, it doesn't even make sense. It cannot have happened that way.
It could have happened that way because he had the grill when he went to Arkham Asylum already, when he met Harley Quinn. And Harley Quinn, there's a newspaper saying that she helped murder Robin. So by the logic of David Ayer, it is impossible for him to have gotten the grill for murdering Robin, who Harley Quinn would have been his accomplice, but he already had the grill beforehand.
Yes.
But my point is that is why At the end, David Ayer says he has the grill. And if that is the reason, I'm okay with the grill look. If he's going to have fake teeth, I'm okay with it being that way if Batman punched it out. What I'm not okay with is that it contradicts what's in the movie.
I'm also not okay with the fact that in order to have that plot device, we now have an actor who cannot speak correctly and portray the character correctly because of that. So...
But I'm okay with seeing more of the Joker. I did not dislike him as much as you did.
I want to see more of him just because he was done terrible in this movie. But I don't like anything about him. I don't like anything about him. I'm anxious to see if anything about him is changed when and if he's in Affleck's Batman movie.
Yeah.
Because Affleck is a much better movie maker and storyteller. So I can only hope that there's at least that.
Yeah. I mean, I would give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. I think there's enough entertainment value that you're not wasting your time and that there are good moments, and it's a shame because you can see that somewhere amongst it all there was a decent movie. But the studio mucked it up. Not David Ayer, who is getting the flack for it, which is very frustrating because it's not his fault.
Yeah. And to be honest, I would... In its current state, I think I would still rather rewatch this movie than rewatch Batman vs. Superman.
Exactly right.
So, there's that. But I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There's enough good parts in the movie where you can see what it could have been, and it would have been a decent movie. Would have been an okay movie, maybe even a good movie.
Yeah.
And that, I think, helps pull your opinion a little bit forward.
Right. Because my wife and I were talking just real quick. The one thing they had going for them in this movie is, like my wife was saying, in her opinion, and I kind of agree with it, you can argue that Marvel has more of a wealth of good heroes, but DC has more of a wealth of good villains. So to have a movie that's capitalizing off of the villains is a good idea because their villains are cooler and they're more recognizable. And to have a movie with a hodgepodge of them is a neat idea.
Yeah.
But man,
they didn't pull it off.
The studio execs stuck their fingers in where it shouldn't have been. Trust your filmmakers. Come on, people. Unless it's Zack Snyder, in which case you should have just known from the get-go that...
I think this is just a testament to WB not quite having the proper foundation set up first, because they can't. They felt like they couldn't trust their filmmakers because they had been let down.
Right. But now that, Clay and I said this in numerous podcasts before, but now that they've restructured, Geoff Johns is the Kevin Feige of DC films, we cannot truly judge a DC film accurately until Justice League comes out, because that is the first movie...
Well, we can judge the films individually. We cannot judge the universe.
No, the DCEU appropriately. Because there's even... People are already forgetting the truth of what's happened. People are talking about how Suicide Squad's a mess, but at least Geoff Johns was working on Wonder Woman. That's not true. Wonder Woman wrapped filming by the time that this restructuring had happened, and I'm so frustrated with that because...
If people think... Because I said this earlier off cast, Wonder Woman's going to come out, and it is also going to suck. I guarantee it.
Yes.
I guarantee it. Because they were not set up properly to make good movies when that movie started.
Yep.
So if it comes out and any sort of blame starts getting thrown towards Geoff Johns, I'm going to be upset. And I'm going to be right behind him defending that he didn't even come on in that position until after Wonder Woman was well on the way / wrapped.
Exactly. Because to have the kind of control that Kevin Feige has, it starts at the beginning, which is when he came on, he and Ben Affleck were like, all right, Zach, they took the Justice League script away and they did their own version.
Yeah.
So that is what that kind of creative control is. Not coming in after the fact and maybe being like, well, maybe choose this scene over that scene in the editing room.
Yeah.
It is.
We're going to go back to the drawing board
and have a vision.
Go sit in your corner, Zach. You've gone too far.
Exactly.
So.
Oi.
So keep our fingers crossed. Justice League hopefully will be the true vision of what the DCEU will be.
As we've said before, we want them to succeed. We want good movies. And I told Clayton off cast, if the superhero genre implodes upon itself because of DC and not Bryan Singer, I will be so mad.
Because at this point, I would rather watch an X-Men movie than a DC movie.
Which I cannot believe I'm agreeing with. But yes, I would much, much rather watch Days of Future Past or Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
Ugh. Anyways, 6.5 out of 10 for me.
I'm not even going to give it a number.
You have to give it a number.
Why do I have to give it a number?
We're reviewing it.
Numbers are arbitrary. Numbers are ridiculous.
They're subjective.
I've just spent 30 minutes, 40 minutes talking about my opinion. I'm not going to slap a label on it.
I would. That's how that's done.
Doesn't mean it's right.
Things get rated. Things get ranked.
I give it a 3 out of 5.
Hang on. So you gave it a...
You gave it a 65%.
And you gave it a 60. And yes, I pulled out my phone calculator to do that. So there you go, people. Take us out.
That has been an Enter the Nerdosphere Reviews. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Podbean and iTunes. Be sure to follow us on all of these places. Subscribe on YouTube. We're expanding rapidly into what we're doing on YouTube, so check us out.
And check us out on Facebook.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. If you want to get in contact with us, we are enterthenerdosphere@gmail.com. Or, like I said, you can comment on any of our forums or websites.
What did you guys think of the movie? Whenever we post this in the comment section below, let us know. Let's get an idea, a consensus of like where these ships fall.
Yeah, I'd like to hear others' opinions. Did you like the Joker? That's what I want to know.
Yes.
Who liked the Joker? And if you liked him, what did you like about him? If you didn't like him, what didn't you like about him? So comment below.
And
let us know.
Do you think Jared Leto deserves a second chance? Do you want him to be changed with the writing, or do you want to recast? That's a good question.
That is a good question. And I guess that will remain to be seen. So, but that has been.
We didn't even get into the Harley Quinn stuff about feminism.
No, that's...
Alright.
It's neither here nor there. That has been in the Nerdosphere.
Reviews.
Remember, from the silver screen to the small screen, and anything in between.
In between?
In between. Here, right here. We'll see you next time.